Say it again.
وضرب.
Okay, so when you say وضرب, is there air or no air?
وضرب.
Yeah.
وضرب.
If you say وضرب, what are you doing? You're doing qalqala. There's no qalqala. It's not a letter qalqala. This is very often pronounced qalqala, but it's mispronounced. The common pronunciation of this word would be وضرب لهم. وضرب لهم. That's not right. It's وضرب لهم. وضرب لهم.
وضرب لهم.
وضرب لهم.
وضرب لهم.
Good. وضرب لهم.
وضرب لهم.
And there's a qalqala, right? At the end. On the ba. So, try it.
وضرب لهم.
No air. You can't say وضرب لهم. It's one process. وضرب لهم.
وضرب لهم.
Good. And it comes with a lot of practice. It's a letter that you can spend hours and hours practicing with the sheikh and still not get it right. Huh? Yudlil. Yudlil. Yudlil.
يضلل.
So, yeah, yudlil.
يضلل.
You say. Try it. Try it one. So are you using the left side?
There.
Trying. Try it again.
Yeah.
Al-Fadlu.
Yeah. Al-Fadlu. Al-Fadlu. So I said lu because it's a thin letter, and we'll do that after, right? So that's not the point I'm trying to do, but it's fadlu.
فضل.
Say it.
الفضل.
No, so this is not a thin letter. It's a thick.
الفضل.
Al-Fadlu. Al-Fadlu.
الفضل.
Yeah. One more time.
الفضل.
Fadlu.
الفضل.
With no air. Want to try it?
Al-Fadlu.
Al-Fadlu. Good. So again, the point of what I'm trying to do in this class is to give you an understanding so that you have the opportunity to practice, and that when you listen to people, you will recognize what is the correct pronunciation and have the opportunity to practice that. Questions? Okay, so we'll continue. So the makhraj of lam, is very similar to the makhraj, here, I believe they will say that it's the same. Yeah, so side of the tongue with gums of the upper molars, very similar to dad, which is the letter lam, right? And lam is pretty easy. It's not a mistake that anyone makes. The mistakes that people will make will be saying law instead of li, right? And that's a question of thick versus thin. And that time will also come. So we say Allah versus billah or lillah, right?
Lam is only heavy fi lafz al-jalala, right?
Fi lafz al-jalala, unless it's preceded by a kasra. Right? So when we say billah or lillah. So we'll take that as well after. Otherwise, all of the lambs are muraqqaq, are thin. So that one's easy. So now, two more we'll do, and then we'll stop, which is moving to the tip of the tongue. Okay? And then we'll take examples. So moving to the tip of the tongue, we have, so we said that the breakdown for this was the sounds that are pronounced from the tongue, but not the tip, meaning like right here, the very tip. And those two are gonna, and then these ones are the sounds that we think of, like tha and the, right? But also, the first one is the letter noon. Okay? Noon is also one that people don't really make mistakes on, right? Everyone makes the correct sound of noon, which is an. It's the tip of the tongue touching the roof of the mouth. An, right? An. And right behind it, this letter is one that a lot of people will make mistake. So the letter an is basically the tip of the tongue at the roof, like right behind the front teeth. It'd be an. We say an'amta. صراط الذين أنعمت. So everyone say it? Okay, we're gonna say the same thing. صراط الذين أنعمت.
صراط الذين أنعمت.
Yeah, and you can identify it. You might never have thought of it, but now you know that it's right behind the front teeth and the roof of the mouth. Now, if you go a little bit further back on the roof of your mouth is going to be where the letter ra comes from. And this is a tricky one. So, in the poem that we were studying, which covered, we didn't really study the poem, but the poem that we were going over, the Tuhfat al-Atfal, he says that, when he's talking about idgham, he says, وَالثَّانِ إِدْغَامٌ بِغَيْرِ غُنَّةٍ فِي اللَّامِ وَالرَّاءِ ثُمَّ كَرِّرَنَّهُ. Okay? And so this is actually a point worth making, that this is the difference between learning something from a book and learning something from a teacher. Because on its face, this line is saying that وَالثَّانِ إِدْغَامٌ بِغَيْرِ غُنَّةٍ, the second type of idgham, we said there's two types, is بِغَيْرِ غُنَّةٍ فِي اللَّامِ وَالرَّاءِ, for the letters, what are the two letters? Lam and ra, where there's no idgham. We said milla and arra, for example. Or min rabbihim. And then he said ثُمَّ كَرِّرَنَّهُ. So then do takrir. Okay? Takrir. And this is a quality. So if you look on this chart where we go over the sifat, there's a quality, the last one, which is takrir. And it's a quality, and the letter for it is the letter ra. And takrir means a repetition. And so on its face, I said, if you were to just take that from the poem and you were to read it, some teachers, or some people who don't study with the sheikh, they understand this to mean you should roll your ras, because that's what he says, actually. But the quality, actually, what he means is, this is a quality of rolling for the letter ra, so don't do it. And the only way you get that is by learning from a sheikh, because that's impossible to get from the text of, the codified rule. So this quality of takrir is or repetition, or rolling your ra, doesn't exist in Arabic. It's what we do. We don't do, but that's what they do in Spanish, right? They roll their r's. And in Arabic, it's very common. People will also say Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, but that's wrong, right? We don't roll the letter ra. Now, another thing that people do that will make a mistake with this is the difference between the letter ra and the letter r. Okay, so if we just say rail, right? If we say rail, that r in English is not the same as the letter ra, because if you put in a ra, it would be rail, right? It's a very different sound versus rail. And so when you use that r from English in the Quran, it sounds just as bad, but much worse than it is for someone to say rail in English. So we'll take examples. And there's so many, right, for the letter ra. Now another question is the letter ra going to be thick or thin? Right? And we're going to do that one after too, because sometimes we say ru, and sometimes we say ri. And it's a totally different thing, and there's a lot of rules for it. So we'll cover that later as well. So, but just a few examples, we say
ففروا
Yeah. So, say it again.
ففروا.
Okay, so what's the makhraj of the ra? What did we say? Where does it's pronounced from?
Right behind the noon, like on the.
Yeah, so you're using the tip of your tongue. And a lot of these sounds you can make generally without knowing the makharij, but if you want to be meticulous and you want to be correct, then it's understanding the makhraj, and this will be important for the ikhfa that we do next week, inshallah. So, ra. فَفِرُّوا.
ففروا
Everyone say it. فَفِرُّوا.
ففروا.
Now, how do you... This is actually a case where you do most likely rolling, because it's a shadda, and you want to emphasize it. So a lot of people will say, فَفِرُّوا, فَفِرُّوا, and that's wrong. It's فَفِرُّوا, and one way to know that it's wrong is to know where the makhraj is. And you know that if you're pressing too hard, then it's going to roll. فَفِرُّوا.
ففروا.
Good. We say...
البر
Yeah, البر. البر.
البر
Yeah, louder.
فجرنا.
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 So it's actually not fair to teach this without teaching what's thick and when it's thick and when it's thin, but that's how we're going to do it. Because those rules are too complex to kind of all throw out in one day. So here this wall is going to be thick. So we say وَفَجَّرْنَا.
فجرنا.
فَجَّرْنَا. Okay, so the easy ones that we should get correct, and we said part of the goal of this class is to apply these rules in all of the short surahs, in all of the things that we recite regularly, so that at least we pronounce them correctly. So the most basic example then, of course, would be right? So, anyone can say this? No, you don't have to think it through. So try it.
الرحمن الرحيم.
Good. So what we're doing now is we're really kind of applying this into our memory, because this is kind of like a subconscious to pronounce this without thinking. And so now you have to realize that ra comes from the tip of my tongue and the roof of my mouth. So if I were just saying Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, just kind of sounds, that's not meticulous, versus and see, sometimes you make the roll in. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim.
الرحمن الرحيم.
Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim.
الرحمن الرحيم.
And smiling at the end, because that's the sign of something thin. So in the tasmiyah we'd say bis, and the sin, remember we said is a letter of humps. So Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
And so you'll see all of this stuff coming together once we start reciting. So we did the makhraj of lam. So Bismillah, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
Good. Try it.
الفضل.
Try it one.
Al-Fadlu.
So are you using the left side?
There.
I'm trying to. Try it again.
Yeah.
Al-Fadlu.
Yeah. The common pronunciation of this word would be وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ. وَضْرِبْ لَهُم. That's not right. It's وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ. وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ.
واضرب لهم
وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ.
واضرب لهم
Good. وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ.
واضرب لهم.
And there's a qalqala, right? At the end. On the ba. So, try it.
واضرب لهم
واضرب
Say it again.
واضرب.
Okay.
Wad-
So, when you say وَضْرِبْ, is there air or no air?
واضرب
Yeah.
واضرب.
If you say وَضْرِبْ, what are you doing? You're doing qalqala. There's no qalqala. There's not a lot of qalqala. This is very often pronounced qalqala, but it's mispronounced. The huh? Yudlil. Yudlil. Yudlil.
يضلل.
So, yeah, yudlil.
يضلل.
You say no air. You can't say وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ. It's one process. وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ.
واضرب لهم.
Good, and it comes with a lot of practice. It's a letter that you can spend hours and hours practicing with the sheikh and still not get it right.